Hey everybody, welcome again to FoundersGyan. In case you're tuning in for the first time, FoundersGyan brings the inspiring story of a startup and the founder behind it. This is episode 25, which is great because we have hit a quarter century, and this week we are featuring Vikram Ahuja, who's the founder of Byond.Travel. That is Byond.Travel. Byond.Travel aims to create highly personalized and unique travel journeys with an emphasis on immersive experiences. Each travel product is built using expert local insights and ensures that the traveler is an active participant in the experience. It's not about what you see, it's about what you do, is Byond.Travel's mantra. I'm super pumped and excited to bring you this show. The show notes are available at www.foundersgyan.com/EP25, which has links to all that we talk about in the show. Also, do check out the top listened podcasts over at foundersgyan.com/top. This is updated every week and has the top 5 most listened podcasts on our platform. What are we waiting for? Let's hit the road, guys. Vikram, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
A quick brief on Vikram. He is the founder of Byond.Travel, a startup that aims to provide consumers an experience that is beyond travel, as you might expect from the name. Vikram has about 2 decades of experience in the IT industry, with his last big venture being the co-founder of Safarna/Tripera, another travel startup. Last but not least, he is also an award-winning director, having won a few awards on the short films that he's directed. I'm super excited to meet you, and thanks a lot for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your knowledge, wisdom and time with our listeners. Thank you, Vikram, for agreeing to be on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, it's my pleasure. So Vikram, let's start with your journey.
Okay.
So can you fill in the blanks from the intro about your journey before Byond.Travel?
Sure. So I've lived and grown up all over India because my parents were in the Indian Navy. So I grew up traveling as a kid. Spent a lot of my formative years in Bangalore. Did my engineering here, as most people in Bangalore do, and then joined a boutique technology consulting firm, which was amazing because I learned a lot. But then after about 4.5-5 years, I realized that I'm not really cut out to be typing code. So I went to business school, lived in Barcelona and Madrid for a bit in Spain, and then worked in Europe for a bit. After that, I moved, and I also lived in Los Angeles during this period. And then I moved to San Francisco, where I did management consulting. So I did management consulting for a few years, then moved to Dubai, where I joined a very early team of a startup called Kobon, which we grew to be the largest daily deals company in the Middle East. So this was when Groupon was at its peak, and we basically built the Groupon of the Middle East, which was even bigger than Groupon in the Middle East. So we sold the company, which was an excellent learning experience. And out of that sale, I started a travel company in the Middle East called Tripera with the other members of the company that we just sold. Did that for a bit. At the same time, I was also involved in setting up an startup accelerator based out of Bangalore called Chiron. And Chiron was basically a pure play accelerator working with startups, investing in startups. And it was something that started taking up a lot more of my time, which was also then I realized that I wanted to be full-time with Chiron. So I switched, exited the startup that I was a part of, and worked with Chiron full-time. And somewhere along that journey, we decided it would be interesting to start exploring high-growth industries and see if we can build our own startup. And also around that time was when I met with a few very interesting people who are now my partners, who have been in the travel industry for the last 25-30 years. So travel, again, as I'll reference it again, I mentioned it earlier, but it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. So it was something that I was definitely keen on exploring further. And coincidentally, all of these things happened at once with, the meeting of these partners, the decision to sort of build out our own startup, and just the opportunity that it presented. And we started working on a concept to really focus on building experience-based travel, which is what Byond ended up becoming.
Okay, excellent. Now, can you explain in a few sentences what is Byond.Travel, and also how did you guys come up with the idea for this?
Sure. So Byond is an experiences-led travel company where our focus is on creating very immersive and personalized travel journeys for our customers around the world. So we currently serve more than 50 countries. In a lot of ways, Byond focuses on creating interactions with travelers and local communities, local cultures, arts, food, activities, and so on. And so therefore, the whole focus is on taking travel back to what it should be, which is about experiences. So the idea for Byond really came about, in 2011 I attended a festival known as Burning Man, which happens in the middle of the desert outside of Las Vegas. And for 7 days you're immersed in this little city that gets created with the most unbelievable exhibitions of art and culture and community. And just being in that sort of environment for 7 days sort of got me thinking about how travel is so packaged in today's world, where you're presented with almost commodified offerings of what you should be doing in destinations. And so therefore the thought was then to sort of create experiences and destinations that you go that are very local to and authentic to the destinations that you're visiting, which was where we started thinking about how we would do that. And what we realized was the way to do that would be to kind of present a destination as an experience, take care of all the logistics so the traveler doesn't have to worry about which hotel he's staying, how does he get from one place to another, etc., and really focus on building out some of these experiences as moments that you kind of take back with you when you come back. Okay. So that was how we sort of...
Okay, excellent. Now, just to give a sense of this for our listeners, can you just explain, could be a hypothetical, needn't be a real trip as such.
Sure.
Just explain, let's say we pick a place in India.
Sure.
3 or 4 days travel.
Sure.
So how would Byond.Travel look like if we book through your service?
Sure. So typically, our typical duration is 5 days and more.
Okay. Let's take 5.
So let's take 5 days. There's multiple. Again, it depends on the kind of product that you're looking for. There's multiple products that we do. We do what's known as Club Byond, which is group travel. So these are fixed departures where the idea is you don't really need to have someone to travel with. You come together with like-minded people and explore a destination. So to give you an idea of something that we're doing around this, just to sort of give you the flavor of the kind of trip that we do. On January 23rd, we're launching the first ever India to Bangkok road trip. So you're starting off in Imphal in Manipur, and then driving all the way through Myanmar into Thailand, right? So that's starting on. I mean, there's an expedition going. You can join if you'd like. So there are these specific departures which are where the goal is to bring together like-minded travelers. Now we've done Jordan, we've done Thailand, we've done Sri Lanka, etc. This year alone in India, since you mentioned India, for instance, we would do the Kumbh, we would do Diwali in Varanasi, we would do Hemis, we would do Hornbill festivals, etc. So the idea is fixed departures. Now the other side of it is if you come to us with let's say an idea that you have or a place that you want to go, based on your travel preference, based on your sort of needs, likes, dislikes, we would sort of put together the itinerary. An example of that is we had a couple that was looking to travel around Rajasthan, and they wanted to kind of explore Rajasthan beyond just the regular sites that you can do by yourself. You don't need a travel company to do it. So some of the really cool things that we set up for them, we set up a cooking class for them with a member of the Rajasthan royal family, which was held in the kitchen of this palace that the royal family lives in. So it was a very sort of spending 3 hours with Rajasthan royalty and learning how to cook very authentic Rajasthani food. The other thing we did, as an example to what you just said, we recently hosted Diana King, who's a hip hop and reggae singer, in Pushkar for 4 days, where she just wanted she was performing all over India and she just wanted to kind of unwind. So we had Diana King spend 4 days with us in Pushkar, where a big part of her entire experience was interacting with local musicians. So we got these local musicians, and she's jamming with them in the middle of the night, etc., etc. So so you could take one experience and you could give it 20 different flavors. You could go to Ladakh on a bike. You could go to Ladakh searching for a snow leopard. You could go to Ladakh and spend 4 days in a living monastery with Buddhist monks. You could go to Ladakh and climb a mountain. So, depending on who you are, we customize your travel for you.
Okay, brilliant. Now, I ask all the founders this question and I get varied responses. So let's see what your response is. So for our budding founders listening out there, what do you think is a good way to come up with a winning idea?
Well, I mean, I'm only going to answer this from my perspective. I don't know if my idea is winning yet. So I'll put this question into perspective by answering it by saying that I've come up with many different ideas. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have worked and a lot of them haven't. But I think what's common to all of them are the fact that they all came from some sort of a personal need that I had personally or people around me had. So it was something that was very relevant to an audience that I could connect with. So I guess in many ways, my advice would be identify the problem first and then find a solution. I think what a lot of people end up doing is find a brilliant solution and then try and retrofit a problem, which in a lot of cases doesn't really happen. So
that's great. Yeah, I mean a lot of founders do say the same thing. Find a personal problem,
right?
Because that way, when you work on the solution, whether it is fitting your problem or not.
Sure.
You're not working on an imaginary problem. It's a real need, real problem.
Sure. So, but even if you can't find a problem that is relevant to you personally, at least find a problem rather than finding a solution.
Okay. Excellent advice. Now, we all know that an idea is just that. It's just an idea, and unless it is made into a concrete product or a company, it's not worth much. So what are the steps that a person needs to take to follow in order to make the idea into a reality? Maybe you could talk about your own experience, or you could give some advice on what people should do when they have an idea.
I think one thing that I would say is it is exactly what you said. An idea is just an idea and it's in your head, and it's very easy to get biased or completely blindsided by what you're thinking. So the first thing to do, I think, would be to share and discuss the idea with as many people as you can who you trust and can give you a good perspective on it. In fact, a lot of people will actually say, hold on to an idea, don't talk about it, stay in stealth. I think that's bullshit, because an idea, it's not about, success is not going to come from an idea, it's going to come from execution. So definitely find people who can give you multiple perspectives, who can pick the idea apart and offer constructive criticism to your thought process. Secondly would be build a network of people that you trust, who could either work with you on the idea or assist you in finding people who would, because ultimately the success and failure of your idea will depend on the team that you have. You're not going to be able to do it by yourself. And I think thirdly, I would say really do not overanalyze. Start doing, stop thinking, start doing, and focus really on making mistakes, because I think the faster you make mistakes, the sooner you get to the stage where you know what you need to do. Because in most cases, the idea that you start out with and the idea that you end with will be very different.
Okay. Excellent. Now let's move on to a bit of a personal question. We all hear about founders sacrificing family time to make their ventures a success. Can you tell us a bit more about your own family and how you manage to balance business and family?
Yeah, that's true. It's a hard one. Huh? Luckily for me, my family, I come from a family of entrepreneurs as well. So both my parents have started their own businesses, and so that's something that I've seen, and it's something that I've sort of absorbed. My fiance will be my wife in about 2.5 weeks.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. She's also started her own business. She comes from a family of entrepreneurs, so I think it's very helpful to have people around you who have been through a similar journey and kind of understand what it's like. But I think at the same time, I have a very strong support structure. There's a lot of encouragement. So there's never an option of trying to I guess get approval or convince anybody. I think all of us function quite independently, which I think helps a lot.
Okay, brilliant. Now, you were mentioning about a few partners and co-founders that you work with on Byond.Travel. Can you talk a little bit more about them and tell us a bit more about the chemistry between you guys?
Sure. So I think the partners that I was referring to have been in the travel industry for many years. Each of them bring more than 25 years of experience of the travel industry, so they really understand the industry side of things. I think the advantage that we've been trying to work towards for us as a company is the fact that we've got very old school, authentic industry experience, and we're trying to combine that with the startup way of thinking and working, which is move quick, fail fast. And there's a unique sort of blend of online and offline, which I think will help us differentiate in many ways from let's say our competitors or our peers, because we've got those capabilities in place. So I think that's been it's been a very sort of very beneficial partnership, and it's something that we hope will kind of help us really take it to the next level as well.
Okay, brilliant. Now, is there a daily or a morning ritual that you follow? Can you share it with myself and our listeners?
I'll tell you a daily ritual that I'm trying not to follow, which is I'm trying not to look at my phone when I wake up in the morning.
That's very tough, right?
It's very tough, especially with email notifications and WhatsApps, etc. So I'm trying to not do that. But I think what I've now started doing more recently, and it's actually something that I really enjoy, is working out first thing in the morning, and it's an amazing way to start the day. You've cleared your mind is clear. You've built up a lot of energy for the day, and you've really got yourself off to a start where you're not looking to rush or make decisions in a hurry because you've got so many things going on. So I think working out first thing in the morning for sure.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, can you tell us something about yourself that is not commonly known?
Okay. I have represented India at the Asia Open Salsa Championships, and we ended up coming second. So I've done that.
Wow, brilliant.
I make films. I make short films. I've done a lot of theatre.
Okay, brilliant. I think we need to have a small dance of you.
I retired. Don't dance anymore.
Okay. What's the best advice somebody has given you, or alternatively best advice that you have heard?
If you knew whatever you did would not fail, what would you do?
Okay, great. Sorry, that just left me a bit speechless because I got into the moment of it. Now, startups come with a lot of pressure, so give us some tips on how we can handle pressure when things aren't going well. So
I think it's something that I referenced earlier. Have a network of people that you can rely on to let off steam, to just sometimes rant and let thoughts out, to get advice from. It's very important that these are people who are not associated with the business and come with an objective perspective. And it is important to let off steam and let those frustrations out. It can be extremely difficult running a company or being a part of an early stage company. Secondly, have a life outside of your startup, especially as startup founders. I think we tend to get so obsessed with what we're doing that it's very easy to kind of lose track of everything else that is happening around us. And whether it's pursuing a hobby or having another interest, make sure you leave room for those sort of creative pursuits, because ultimately those kind of things will feed back into how well you sort of perform at work, because you've got you're activating the other parts of your brain even. And thirdly, I think more importantly is to just have the discipline of giving yourself a break. It's very important, I think, at least I've found in my perspective, not to get burnt out, especially if you're running a company or leading a company, and you're faced with so many problems on a day-to-day basis. If you find yourself burning out, how you react and solve these problems will show. You will ultimately be making wrong decisions very quickly.
Okay. Okay, brilliant. Now, can you tell us about your worst entrepreneurial moment and how did you turn it around, or the lessons you learned from that experience?
Worst entrepreneurial moment.
I'm sure you have had.
Oh yeah, I've got
plenty.
Tons. I'm just trying to think which one do I talk to you about. I wouldn't say. I mean, I think worst. I'm trying to classify. I think worst is a difficult word. I'm just trying to. I mean, I've had several sort of hits and misses, if that's your question.
Right. So maybe you could talk about a miss that kind of you felt really bad about, or you felt down about.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. In 2012. In 2012, I just I'd moved to Dubai, and I was in the process of getting to know people around me, and I thought it would be such an amazing idea if there was an app that I could take out and see everyone around me, and I could find people based on interests, and if I liked them I'd give them a swipe up, and if I didn't like them I'd give them a swipe down. And it was a brilliant idea in my head at that time. So found another co-founder who was really interested. Both of us put in a lot of money, built the app. It was called Disco for Discovery. We thought it was a brilliant concept. We put in all our time and effort, work weekends, work late nights, all of that. And unfortunately, we didn't think anything beyond what happens after you build the app. How do you get it out there? So we had no idea. We didn't think about that. So ultimately, the moment of truth came when the app was ready and we had no idea what to do with it. And we tried and struggled and played around with it. And it was quite a difficult decision for both of us to say, okay, we've invested time, we've invested money and effort, but this is going nowhere. So let's shut it down. So we made the painful decision to kind of shut it down and walk away from it. And of course, as luck would have it, 6 months later, Tinder, became the hottest thing in the world, and we sort of still will sit and talk about how we built a Tinder before there was,
Right.
I mean, Tinder was around, but not as big.
Yeah. So, but I think Tinder was slightly different, right? Dating, right? So.
Dating was one of our use cases as well. Right. Exactly the same. The idea was find people around you and give them so it was same use cases. It's just that we didn't have the foresight, the conviction, or the determination to continue with the idea. So it was just, okay,
So let me put this out. So supposing today you face with a similar situation.
Happens every day.
Sorry?
It happens every day, I said.
Right. So what would be your advice in such situations? You build an app or you build a product, and now you don't know. I mean, maybe people are not coming. Like, what do you do? What would you suggest?
I think,
or do you think the problem was much before that? I mean,
no. So obviously, I think the problem started from day one, where you have to have the foresight of planning and thinking, and knowing where you want to go. So there has to be a vision. Mm-hmm. And like this is exactly what I was saying earlier about find a problem and then find a solution. What we did is we found a brilliant solution, but weren't sure what the problem was. Is it a dating problem?
You also had a problem, right? You had a problem,
right? But when we built it, we weren't sure. Are we trying to solve a dating problem? Are we trying to solve a social discovery problem, etc.? So we hadn't quite done. We weren't convinced ourselves, and therefore it showed when it was ready. We didn't know which direction to go. Sorry, your question was what do you do if you're faced with an adverse situation running a startup?
Yeah.
No, so I think hopefully when you get to a stage where things are looking bad, you have thought through this situation happening and have a plan B and a plan C. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a plan B and plan C, one thing that I've realized through experience is you have to learn to let go. There are ideas that you think are brilliant, and when it doesn't work, right, cut losses, let go, move on. There will always be better opportunities. And I think the strength of a person, not just an entrepreneur, but if a person is, how you pick yourself up when you're right at the bottom, and move up, because that's the only way to go.
Right.
Unfortunately, what happens is sometimes when we're at the bottom, we try and salvage the situation. Maybe I can do this to save this. Maybe I can do that to save this. And I think it's because we're so invested into an idea or a concept or a process, emotionally, mentally, physically, that we can't get out of it, and we get sucked into that. So I think the just let go, think objectively, leave the ego outside, and if it's not working, admit failure and move on.
Right.
Failure is not a bad thing. Failure is great.
Right, and also 6 months down the line, if somebody else comes up with the same idea and is successful, no point in beating yourself up about it.
No, you sit in conversations like this and say, listen, here's what I could have been,
Right. I mean, no point.
But it goes back to the concept that we were saying earlier. An idea is nothing.
Right.
An idea, everyone has ideas. It's how you execute it. So nobody cares if you had an idea to build Uber before there was Uber, right? And that's happened too, right? Like, people have had ideas and not executed well, and
Right. Okay, excellent. Now I just have a few more questions. Now let's retouch on Byond.Travel.
Sure.
So, what is the revenue model for Byond.Travel, and what is the future you envision for your company?
So we have multiple streams of revenue. We make money obviously on the transactions of products that we build and design for our travelers. That is one. We also make money on creating content and distributing some content for specific partners. That's two. In terms of the future, I think the future is this is the future of travel, the space that we're in. So I'm extremely bullish about the future for us in many different ways. I think the market's going to grow, the opportunities are going to grow. We're going to be doing a lot more segments, speaking to a lot of different groups. Right now we do women's groups, we do self-drive groups, cycling groups, golfing vacations, bachelorette parties, photography only trips. I mean, there's about 20 different categories of travelers who we will talk to and target very soon. Also on the content side, we're already investing a lot into virtual reality and 360 video, which is going to be huge. And I expect by this time next year, that'll be a big part of our business.
Okay, excellent. Okay, are there any books or resources that you can recommend for our budding entrepreneurs?
Sure. There's one of the books that I read early on when I was starting a company, which I thought was really cool, is the Lean Startup, because it does precisely what you should be doing, which is identifying problems and then finding solutions and moving quickly to kind of pivot in the direction that you need to go to. There's a book that I'm reading now, which is very interesting. It's called The Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz, which is an interesting book as well. And the whole concept is that it's easy to start a company, but it's incredibly difficult to run a company. So he focuses on the operational side of running a startup, which I think is very useful. There's also another book that I found interesting recently. It's called Search Within Yourself, I think, and it's by this guy who works at Google and does all these kind of books about mindfulness and meditation, and it's quite an interesting perspective, because he's an engineer at Google, so he's not one of these fluffy self-help, look within yourself and all that, but he brings a very scientific approach to kind of slowing down and bringing your mind to a state where you're thinking and acting clearly, and that's quite a useful book as well.
Okay, excellent. We will link all these up in the show notes. Now, I just have one more question, but before we move on to that, how can our listeners get in touch with you? Are you active on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Any of those. It's Vikram Ahuja 27 on Twitter.
Okay, excellent. Okay, cool. So I just have one final question, but before we move on to that, I just want to take the time to acknowledge and thank you for sharing your knowledge to myself and our listeners.
Thanks, I hope it was useful.
I'm also very grateful for the value you're adding into the world by means of your startup, and with that we'll move on to the final question. So if there is one Gyan that you could give our would-be founders, what would that be?
If you knew whatever you would do would not fail, what would you do? I honestly believe in that saying. Which I think it boils down to our fear of failure or a fear of rejection.
Right.
But you're never going to know whether an idea that you have is successful or not unless you do it.
Right.
And so therefore, it just boils down to accepting failure as a natural consequence of actions that you perform and looking at it as a learning process rather than something that is the be all and end all. Okay. So I really will again repeat the advice that I mentioned earlier, which is if you knew what you do would never fail, what would you do?
Right. Brilliant advice. And I'm not a great believer in coincidences. Just incidentally today I was watching a video of Jim Carrey.
Okay.
He was giving a convocation speech at the Maharishi University.
Okay.
And he says that his father inspired him. Okay. And he says that his father could have been a great comedian, but he chose to take a conservative route and take a safe job as an accountant. And he was let go when he was 12 years old, and the family did everything they could to survive. So the advice that Jim Carrey gives is that why do you want to do something that you don't like, because you could still fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why not do something that you love?
Absolutely.
So I think your Gyan really resonates with what I just saw today. So thanks a lot for that.
Sure, thanks a lot.
And thank you so much, Vikram, for your time. And it was a real pleasure chatting with you. And wish you continued success in your venture.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
There you have it, folks. Another great startup and founder. I do hope you liked it as much as we did in producing it. Do check out the show notes over at FoundersGyan.com/EP25. This has all the info about what we talked on the show, as well as nifty share icons that you can use to share this with your friends. In case you loved the show, please do rate us over at iTunes. Again, all the links are available at FoundersGyan.com/EP25. I'll see you all next week with yet another founder and story. But till then, you do know what the show was meant to do. I hope you got inspired and do take action on your startup today. Thanks for tuning in and have a great week ahead.